Hi everyone, and thanks for joining today. Today we're going to be talking about how to get found on the internet, how to engage your visitors, and how to convert them. So I'm James Roloff. I'm the sales director here at PowderKeg, and I'm here with Elise as well. She's one of our account coordinators and works with our existing accounts as well. So I will get started right off the bat then. And I should note too, if you guys have any questions during the presentation, feel free to let me know by hitting that question button on the GoToWebinar, or feel free to add any comments in the chat as well. So getting started, the ROI of a good website, I guess kind of the reason why we even are having this conversation today. Most people do their research online before making a purchase nowadays. This is true of physical products as well as services as well. So, you know, the stat we have here, 81% of people research online before buying a product or service. I'm sure you can relate that too. You know, if you're looking at buying something big ticket or even small ticket stuff too, you're probably doing Google searches, you're probably checking things out, seeing what's out there first, getting some testimonials, getting some feedback on things. And by the time you end up talking to a salesperson, more likely than not, or customer service person, whatever it might be, you probably already have made up your mind of who you want to go with, and you're just kind of checking off the final boxes. So that's the reason that we're putting so much emphasis on having a good website and being found in Google searches, is because it's a very, very important part of making sure people buy your products or services. So I'm going to start out the presentation talking about local SEO and how to get found. So again, I'm James Roloff. I'm the sales director here. I enjoy the internet. I've been doing internet stuff now for a little over 15 years, managing different websites of different types of niches. I wrote the book, The Inbound Advantage. It's a book about digital sales and basically how to educate, capture, and consult an audience on your website. So what makes a search local? The first thing that can make a search local is specific keywords. So like internet provider. So if I search internet provider in Verona, Wisconsin, internet provider, it's going to show providers that Google says are local. If you type things like food, lawyer, you've experienced these things probably before too. If you search pizza into Google, it's only going to show you local pizza places. It's not going to show you national stuff. So certain keywords can make things like that. If you type in near me or city names after a search, it'll also make it local. You know, so example from us, like if you search print shops near me, print shops Verona, Wisconsin, that's automatically going to make the results local. And then map searches. So if you're using Google Maps or Apple Maps, anything you search into those will automatically show local results too. And so now I kind of want to go through the anatomy of what a search results page looks like. The first one, at the very top there, being the paid results. So for any query, there tends to be between 0, if there's no ads, to up to 5 different paid results. Again, you've seen this before too. They tend to get about 10% of the traffic. So most people know their ads, but some people click on them anyways. Other people don't know their ads. But again, they get about 10% of all search traffic. Immediately following that on local searches is what's called the local pack. Again, that can be 0 to 5, typically 3 listings that show up with a map and a pin. These can include paid results too. So if you're doing a Google ad, you can actually have your ad show up there as well. And that tends to get about 20 to 40% of traffic. And then the last thing on a search results page is the organic results. And that gets about 50 to 70% of traffic. So it's still a majority of the traffic clicks on the organic results down at the bottom. But again, the local pack is pretty important too, because it does garner a good chunk of that traffic as well. So I'm going to kind of go through each one of those different areas and talk about what ranking factors or ranking signals actually applies to how you rank there as well. So the very top one being the paid ads. So the only way to show up there is to run a Google Ads campaign. It used to be called Google AdWords. They rebranded as Google Ads. Again, the only way to show up there is really to set up an ad campaign, set a budget, and then set like a location, geographic location, that kind of stuff too. So the ranking factors there are the campaign you're running and then content relevancy. And what I mean by that is they're only going to show ads that are relevant to the search query. And actually, you can end up paying less money on those ads if the link for your ad actually goes to a page that's very relevant for someone. So even though you are paying for an ad in Google, Google still wants to show good results for people. So they're actually willing to give a lower bid amount a better position, knowing that the result might be better for the user too. So there is a component of good content in paid results as well. So next is that local pack. So here's the ranking signals that affect that. The very first one being what's called Google My Business. So if you're not familiar with that, that's Google's platform that allows you to set up a business listing. So you can go in there, set up name, address, phone number, description, services. You can manage reviews there, all that kind of stuff. So that is the number one factor, is making sure that you have a good Google My Business account set up, which includes things like having good reviews and stuff too. The next biggest factor is link signals. So what that means is how many other websites are linking to you and which websites are they. So if there's other good local websites that are linking to you, that's a good sign to Google that you are a good local result. So that's a good link signal. And then on-page signals, so presence of NAP, and that stands for name, address, phone number, having keywords in titles, domain authority, so basically all of your standard SEO on-page content thing. So again, the most important thing being that name, address, phone number, the NAP. If that name, address, phone number matches up what you have listed for Google My Business, that's a very good sign to Google that you are a good, legitimate result. Review signals, so number of reviews, quality of reviews, obviously the ranking of reviews, all of those things impact your ranking as well. So that's kind of a low-hanging fruit for showing up for local results, is just soliciting some good reviews from some of your best customers. A note on there too, it wouldn't be a good thing just to get 20 reviews all at once and then get nothing for a long time. Google does see that as people possibly gaming the system. So if you're going to do some sort of campaign to try and get more reviews, I'd try and space that out over time so you get kind of a slow drip of reviews coming in too. And then behavior signals. So this is the actual engagement signals, which Elise will talk about a little bit more later on as far as on the website goes. But on the search results page, if you're getting more clicks than your competitors, people are clicking websites or asking for directions more often than your competitors, that can actually be a sign to Google that you're a better result. So they'll actually move you up in rankings based on how people are actually engaging with your result as well. And then personalization. So you probably experienced this before. If you search your own organization or search the same query multiple times in a row, you're going to start having a result rank higher. So it doesn't affect your global ranking, but for one specific computer that is a ranking factor, it'll try and show the same result over again. And then the last section here, the organic results, here's what affects that. So number one thing being link signals. So that, again, that was a factor in the local map pack, but it's the number one factor for organic results. So Google's main algorithm is all built around content and links. And the more quality links you have going to your website, the more you're going to have what's called authority in Google's eyes. So that's really the main thing you want to do for organic results, is trying to get as many good links inbound as possible. And tips on getting those, would be looking at any kind of business directory you're in, any kind of associations you're in, making sure they link back to your website, as well as having very good content. If you have very good content, other people across the internet are naturally going to link to your website. So that's kind of the power of having good blog articles and things like that. So on-page signals, again, like before, things like name, address, phone number, keywords and titles, having addresses and titles, things like that too helps. And then behavior signals again. So again, if people are clicking on your result, if you're listed as number 3, people keep going to you and clicking on your result, there's a good chance over time they'll get bumped up to number 2, because people, again, are kind of voting with their clicks that you are a good result. And then personalization again. So again, if you're searching your own name over and over again, you're going to be found higher up on that one specific computer. It's not going to affect your overall traffic, but it'll affect your personal computer. And then actually Google My Business helps with local results too in that organic section. So even though it's not a map listing, having a Google My Business account set up and having it be accurate will help you with the organic results. And then review signals. So again, even though it doesn't show reviews down that organic results, that's a good sign to Google that, okay, this is actually a legitimate business. You can show their website down that organic results section. So those are kind of the ranking factors and what goes into them. So now I'm going to actually give you guys 7 tips on how to rank better locally. So to be expected, the number 1 tip would be to set up a Google My Business listing, because again, that's a huge factor in that local map pack, but also has a factor on the organic rankings too. So you definitely need to go in and set up a Google My Business listing, making sure your name, address, phone number is set up correctly, setting up business categories correctly. So here's ours, so we're web designer. Keywords and title, so we are Powder Keg Web Design. You don't want to game the system and have like keywords in the title that aren't actually part of your business name. We actually go by Powder Keg Web Design, so it works out for us. But based on your business, you might find that you have keywords in your title that will help with SEO too. And then content. So actually having content on your My Business page is important. So you can upload photos, you can do posts on Google My Business now. You can do walkthroughs even too, which is actually hiring a photographer to come out and do a walkthrough of your business. All of this stuff, when you do it and you add content to Google My Business, tells Google that you're invested in their platform and they're going to help you rank better for that reason too. The number 2 tip would be use your address in your website content. So again, name, address, phone number, just like in My Business, but making sure on your website you have that information. So common spots for it are headers and footers, contact pages, location pages. So if you're a local business, it's very, very important that you're using your name, address, phone number throughout your website. Again, just signaling to Google that you are actually associated with a physical location. And then complete other business listings. So outside of Google, anywhere else you have a business directory that you can be involved in, I would highly recommend that you make sure that you have a built-out listing there too. Again, with that name, address, phone number, so Chamber of Commerce's, associations you're part of, anything you sponsor is a good example too. There's other websites out there like the Yelps of the world and things like that too. Again, the more you can show on the internet that you exist somewhere, the better. So 4, receive positive reviews, which is easy to do if people like you. That's a little harder if, and I should note too, being in a service-based business can make it a lot harder too, because you're going to have angry customers that are going to go on there and do that too. So that's where it's important to have an active campaign trying to receive positive reviews as well. So again, things like encouraging customers to review, look at the quality and quantity. I reach out to customers that will actually have a quality review with actual text, not just one click of 5 stars and said it was good. You want someone that actually write out longer reviews for you. I should note on that too, Google does look at keywords in their actual reviews as well. So if we have customers that write a review and say, we had a great website design made by Powder Keg, that's going to help us rank better for website design because they're actually mentioning that content keyword in their review as well. And again, talking about the negative reviews, here's one from a local car dealership. They got a negative review from Madeline. She was not pleased with the service center work, but they responded to her. So anytime positive or negative, when you have a review, you definitely want to go in and actually respond to the review as well. And all of that is done through Google My Business, which again just kind of emphasizes the importance of actually setting up a Google My Business account. And here's our positive one. So again, this is a car dealership. They left a positive note, and they kind of had a fun little ploy and said, we'll be happy to have you stop in next time for your service. We'll have hot cocoa and cookies ready for you. So this is the kind of stuff that not only to help your rankings, but from a social proof standpoint, if someone's looking to use a service, a lot of people nowadays use Google reviews as kind of their social test or litmus test of, is this a legitimate business or not? So when you are managing an account like this and you're responding to it, that helps with not just the SEO side of things, but also that trust building in the actual purchase journey. So number 5, add title and meta descriptions throughout the website. So if you don't know what those are, the title descriptions are what you see in that top bold part in search results. Meta descriptions is a quick description that you see on the search results page. That text does not show up on your website at all. It's all in the metadata, as it's called. But it is important for SEO and it is important for actual clicks on the search results page. So again, the title tags being the top one there. We're Powder Keg. We do web design in Madison, Wisconsin. So that is us explaining who we are as well as trying to get keyword relevancy for web design Madison, Wisconsin. And then in the meta description there, I put Powder Keg is an award-winning website design company based in Madison, Wisconsin. We specialize in web design, web development, email marketing, SEO, mobile pages. So it makes sense when you read it, but it also is good for SEO. You see all the words that I use in there: Madison, Wisconsin, web design, web development, our name. So again, it's a game of using good keywords as well as having it actually be informative for visitors too. And here's just some more examples. So that's your main page. Your home page might have your primary keywords, but we have other pages on our websites like web development. We have our individual portfolio pages for our clients. And even on those, we'll talk about our clients, talk about where they're located, which again helps us get more relevancy for other locations besides our main location too. So if we have a client in Baraboo, for instance, we could talk about that client being in Baraboo, which will help us rank better over time in that actual location outside of Madison, Wisconsin too. So tip number 6 would be write local content. Surprise, surprise. So that basically means you want to have content on your website that's going to be local based, which will help you have more relevancy for local searches too. So not just being listed locally, but actually talking about local things. So here's some examples I can kind of go through. One being portfolio project gallery, which I just talked about. So on our website, we have a project gallery where we talk about services that are rendered in other locations, which again helps us rank in those different communities besides Madison. Blogs are really, really good. So you can talk about local things. And, you know, I'm a big believer in not being super cheesy in your blog and only put in obvious SEO-based articles. But if your organization's involved in things that are happening in the community, it's really good to have like event recaps there, or talk about things that are happening in the community, or just maybe investments you're making in the community, things like that too. So there's more things you can talk about on your company blog that involve your community than just kind of the fluffy articles too. Events. So I know a number of our customers have event calendars. So if they're going to things like trade shows, or if they're having like, you know, special promotional weeks, things like that too. All of those are great. And if an event has a physical location, you can actually put that address of that event on that web page talking about it, which again will help you get some more local addresses, local city names on your website. And then other pages. So, you know, we have customers with resource libraries or like community involvement pages. Anywhere you have the ability to talk about local content, just make sure that you're including keywords that are related to your services as well as the actual keywords for communities that you're around too. And tip number 7 is redesign for conversion. So, you know, going back to the search results page, how people engage with your website is really good for SEO. And that's true on-site too. You know, Google has insight through Google Analytics and programs like that as far as how people are actually interacting with your website itself. And the more engagement people have on your website, and the more they stay on the website and don't bounce out right away, the more likely you're going to rank better for that too. So there's some definite factors you want to look at. Click-through rate is one of them. So people that are clicking into your website and keep clicking around. Again, this is all done by having good design. If you have a bad design on a website, people aren't going to keep clicking through. The bounce rate, so that's the percent of people that land on your website and leave right away. The lower the bounce rate, the better. So if someone goes to your website and the design's atrocious or doesn't look good on their mobile device, things like that too, they might bounce right away, which will tell Google that was not a good result. And then time on site. So the longer people spend on your website and read your content, that's all going to be a signal to Google that there's quality content. So those are the 7 tips, and I'm going to pass off to Elise, and she can talk a lot more about the actual design and conversion aspect of things.
Hey, everybody. All right, I'm going to take over the laptop here. So yeah, like James mentioned, the second half of this webinar will focus more on website design. So once you actually are found by people on search engines like Google, what are you going to do with them? So how are you going to engage with them on your website and then hopefully convert them into leads now or down the road? And for anyone who doesn't know me, just a quick intro. So again, my name's Elise. I am the account coordinator over here at PowderKeg, which means I just work with all of our existing clients for ongoing projects or questions, things like that. And my background is in web design and project management. So now I have just over almost 4 years of industry experience. So the first topic I want to talk about in terms of website design is responsive design. So I'm sure you're familiar with that term in some way or another. It might kind of sound like a buzzword right now, but it actually is something really important that websites should be incorporating into their design. So a quick definition would be responsive design means that, you know, not all of your users are going to be on the same size of screen or device. And responsive just means that the website is built and designed in such a way that based on the resolution of your user's screen, so maybe they're on a smartphone, tablet, or maybe a large desktop, it will actually, you know, kind of shrink and expand and move the way it needs to actually fit within that screen size. And this is so important to consider because, and this kind of ties into what James was talking about, but more than 50% of searches are actually being performed on mobile devices. And I'm sure that number just continues to grow. So just kind of thinking about, wow, you know, how many users could be coming from a mobile device landing on the website? We don't want to miss out on, you know, making a good impression on those users. And On the other flip side of that, search engines definitely favor websites that are responsive. And I know James did mention this earlier. Search engines want their users, which also end up being your users, to have a good experience. So if they know your website's responsive versus a competitor that's not, they're going to say, you know what, I know this user is going to have a nice experience on this website that is responsive. We want to make our users happy, so let's rank them better. So that's kind of how that gets factored into the algorithm. And then just in terms of engagement, Adobe found that 38% of people will actually stop engaging with the website if the content or the layout is not attractive. So, again, going back to that, 50% or more of users that might be coming from a mobile device, if they land on the site, you don't want to miss out on that number of people. You don't want to make a bad first impression and risk them deciding it's not worth it to try to even navigate the site if it's not responsive. And I'm sure you've all been there. I'm sure you've all found a website where you have to kind of like do the horizontal scrolling and, zooming in on your phone. So it's definitely not the best user experience. So definitely a big thing to consider. So then once you get them on your site, it's responsive, awesome, they're happy about that. Let's look at what that first impression you're making is. So on average, the first page users are going to land on is your home page. Of course, there's always going to be other landing pages based on their search or maybe certain campaigns you're running, but organically, a lot of people are going to be looking at your home page first. So we definitely want to make sure that that is a good first impression that you're making. So this next topic that we're looking at is making a strong homepage statement. So something that kind of gets, kind of a point that gets factored into that is, first of all, what's your value proposition? Maybe that's something even internally you want to work on, just sort of defining a little bit better. But once you know that, make sure that that's really clear on your homepage right away. And then on top of that, have some sort of clear call to action right off the bat so users know, hey, here's what value they're offering, and then here's what I should do next. So we just want to make it really clear for people when they land on the homepage. And then make sure it's visually clean and engaging. Kind of with the current trends and something especially going into 2019 we're seeing, typically that means you have a nice big static image. If you can have something that is, actually of your business or your products or your services or anything like that, that's great. Stock photography can be used if there's definitely images that you can find out there that also look nice, but if you can find an image that really portrays who you are or the value you offer, that's going to be huge. And then another trend, actually, instead of just having a static image, you could always incorporate a background video as well, so kind of more of like a B-roll. Usually there's an overlay, so it's not the focus, but it's kind of a fun element that adds some extra engagement when people are, viewing that initial information. So then they land on your site, they understand who you are, there's maybe some clear call to actions, and then you have your navigation. So we want to make sure that that is straightforward and simple so people aren't confused or feel overwhelmed. And my point on this slide right here is users don't want to think, so make it obvious where they should click, and not even just the trend of people wanting to be told where to go. Sometimes they don't actually know what they need. So the fact that you're the expert and you should know your target audience, having the ability to kind of funnel people in the appropriate, to the appropriate content, that's definitely something that's going to increase your engagement and obviously be a good user experience as well. And so just a general suggestion for that, kind of a common thing to do is just highlight your top level offerings and funnel your traffic through there. Depending on the site, sometimes you'll have secondary, sub pages that users can see. Depending on your business, some people actually prefer to just have the high level offerings. You click in and then you're kind of funneled from there. So pretty much as simple as you can make it, and in a way that makes sense to your users, the better. So then once you funnel them to the appropriate content, we actually want to evaluate the content that you're showing them. So this is a huge thing. You can have a website that looks really nice, but if you're not presenting the right content, you're going to definitely lose engagement and users are not going to benefit anything from visiting your website. So that is a missed opportunity. So the biggest thing that we feel is important when it comes to content is making sure you're educating your audience. And it can sometimes be difficult to know how much information is too much information? What do people actually want to know? What should we share? So kind of the two main bullet points that I have on here is, I'm sure your support staff or sales reps or anyone within your company, I'm sure you've heard very common questions coming from your target audience and your clients. So that is a great kind of resource to leverage, and sort of just look at what sort of content you could put out on your website to answer those questions up front. And then also, as an expert of your industry, kind of determining what you think people should know. So again, kind of going back to that, users might not always know what they want, what they need, or even, some information that they're missing out on. So I think finding a balance between those two things kind of creates this really nice mold of content, I guess, that people will find really engaging and empowering, I guess, in terms of, being an empowered consumer and a knowledgeable consumer. So you might be wondering how, other than just product or service pages, how else can you share this awesome information? There might be things that you don't want to just throw on a product or service page. So there's a lot of different channels you can use. So I have a few examples here. So blog, that's definitely a common one. You don't always have to call it a blog, but just a place to post, articles, helpful tips. You can have different categories of content. So that's kind of a nice resource people can continuously go back to for new information, which again, great for SEO as well. Newsletters, so if you have an email list, sending out resourceful-based newsletters is kind of a nice way just to show, you're keeping up on things, you're an expert in your industry, and you want to, help your target audience and clients actually learn and, again, be a knowledgeable consumer. Resource library, that's a bit more technical, again, kind of depending on what you're offering, but that can be a nice place if you feel like you have a lot of documentation, or even just wanting to send people to external links or other resources. That can be a nice central location to house all of that information, rather than just having it kind of spread throughout the site sporadically. And then social media. So I know that's sort of an external source outside of your website, but if you're blogging or you have a library, a resource library, you can actually share that information or like a sneak peek of that information on social media and then just link them right back to your website. So that's a great way. Maybe someone isn't searching for something online themselves, but they see it pop up on Facebook, for example, and think, yeah, that's actually really interesting. And before you know it, they're on your site, they read the blog, maybe they've used some other pages. So it's kind of a nice way to introduce people to who you are and, again, start out as that resource for information rather than, the initial sales pitch up front. And then call to action. So it's great that they're on your site, they're reading the information, but what do you actually want them to do? What should they be doing? So just making sure that there's no confusion about what those call to actions are. So making them strong and relevant is really the most important thing. And again, it doesn't always have to be sales specific right off the bat. So some nice examples. So here's an example where they actually say, request more information. So that's kind of a nice creative way instead of saying, get started. It's more conversational, more personal. And then I really like this. This is also a great example, kind of going back to that homepage statement discussion. But I love this one because, they have their nice value statement. And instead of just saying learn more, they say see what we do. So I feel like it just piques the interest a little bit more. It's more conversational. And going back to that real fast, obviously they have another contact us, the login as a secondary CTA. But I think kind of having that very primary centered call to action is really nice on that homepage. So then here's an example I also threw on here because I feel like this is a little bit unique, but I really like that they almost have call to actions for 3 different stages of the sales funnel. So take a virtual tour. Oh, awesome. I came to the site. I kind of just want to learn more. Wow, I can actually get a virtual tour of this apartment complex. That's awesome. Maybe after I do that, I'm ready to actually start talking to a human being, getting more information if I have questions, so I can actually email them directly. And then maybe I've already had a conversation or I'm just super hyped about what they're offering. I can apply online. So I think this is a really nice example of offering a few different call to actions based on where people are in that sales funnel. And then content formatting. So, going back maybe of a blog, or you have kind of a longer description of a product or service on your site, it's definitely important to format this text in a way that's easily digestible to your target audience. And so here's kind of a brief example of a blog post. So, you have your header at the top, which is really clear, and then the content itself is not just a giant wall of text. And again, this is a blog post, so, the use case is going to vary depending on, what kind of content you're writing. But there's a nice little intro paragraph, there's a numbered list, there's a set of images below, so it's nice and broken up, and it's, again, not just that giant wall of text that might overwhelm some people, which would not be good. And then I have this example. This is kind of just showing that there's kind of other unique ways that you can share information without using text all of the time. So kind of the focus of this slide is just saying to use white space and imagery as much as possible, or as much as is appropriate. So in this example on the Taliesin website, instead of just saying, oh, hey, we have these 3 different tours we want to feature and having, 3 different paragraphs talking about them, they actually have this nice section where they have 3 images that feature what people might see on those tours, just with a quick name of what that tour is, and then 2 little short paragraphs of text and a call to action. So this visually is very engaging and, again, really fun because people are actually getting a visual of what they can expect on those tours. So I like that example a lot. And then the last item about content, again, it doesn't always have to be text. Video is something that is definitely on the rise, and especially on social media, just kind of looking at the trends there, sharing videos, those are going to get way more exposure, and there's a reason for that. Just kind of understanding people don't always want to just read tons of information. There might be some things that are hard to portray over text. So video can be very powerful depending on the circumstance. So using video like this, and this is another example from Taliesin because I love that website. They have a video here. They can actually swap this out, but they're actually featuring the 2018 awards that they put on. And this is just like a nice, actually kind of branded thumbnail, but then when you click it, it's a light box that opens up to play the video. So there's really nice ways you can incorporate video and make it fit the look and feel of your website. So that's definitely a lot of information. So here's kind of a general overview of the main things I want you to take away from this. So responsive layout, super important just in terms of user engagement, then also SEO, since they understand that, if someone comes to your website from a mobile device, they don't want them to struggle in terms of, having this super zoomed out layout and trying to horizontal scroll and all of that. Once they're on your site, hopefully it is responsive, then make sure that your homepage statement is nice and strong with that value proposition and clear call to actions. Having a simple navigation will make it really intuitive for people to navigate through your website. And then just in terms of content, make sure it's formatted in a way that's easy to digest. So use headings, white space, and graphics when possible. And then in terms of what you're actually writing about, just try to be a resource. Try to educate your target audience and make sure that they're empowered to make the decision to purchase or become a client when they need to. And I think that'll make building that trust up front will make it a lot easier to build a connection later on. So yeah, so that was all of my information. If you have questions you want to reach out to later on, feel free, but we can go ahead and take some questions now if anyone is brave and wants to share their thoughts or questions right now.
All right, great. Well, as Elise said, if you guys have any questions, definitely feel free to reach out to us. Both of us can be reached at those email addresses there. Otherwise, definitely just reach out to PowderKeg directly, and we'd be happy to talk through them with you. Thanks for joining us today.
Thanks, guys. Bye.